What's up, guys? Welcome back to Big Ben Urban Explorations. I'm down here in Port Adelaide. I just filmed at the clipper ship. As you can see behind me, I'm at the Maritime Museum. That's the next location. So, hope you enjoy the clipper ship video. Please smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below once the video is up.
Which was launched in 1864 as a passenger ship to ply the route between London and Port Adelaide. And for the first 23 years of her life, that's precisely what she did. Brought passengers out and took South Australian produce back to London for sale. And then after that, she had a long history of use in various different capacities, mostly in the United Kingdom, starting out with a timber trader across the North Atlantic, on to a hospital ship in Southampton, and later on a naval cadet training ship for naval gunnery in Scotland. We recovered the ship in 2014, arrived here on the top of another ship. Since then we've been striving to restore her. We're preparing her at the moment to bring her off the barge and place her right behind you there on that piece of fenced off ground where the line of flags is.
Just follow the path, mate. That's a big ass boat, isn't it?
Do we have to go all the way up to the top?
Yeah.
But I don't want to climb the ladder.
Turn of the ship, that's the back of the ship here. And you can see up there a coat of arms, which is actually the Victorian era coat of arms of the city of Adelaide. That's what the ship's called. And she originally had this coat of arms in that position, and you'll find that actually in the town hall in Adelaide here. It was presented to us in 2017 by the councillors as a remade version of the original. Now you'll see the timbers. Those are actually the original timbers of the ship. 90% of them are. There's an occasional timber that's been replaced, and the clue is that the replaced timbers don't have quite so many little nail holes in them. So all those thousands of holes you see are not wood, they're actually nail holes, and they're nail holes from the copper sheeting that you can see the remains of here. And originally the ship was covered in plates of thin brass, or copper sheeting if you like, halfway up all the way around. So there were over 1,000 sheets of this brass. Of course, it's actually quite thin. It's only 1 millimeter thick originally, and it wore out. So it was replaced every about 4 years during the life of the ship. And that's how you end up with thousands of nail holes. They're all the same metal is that the last thing you want to have on a ship is iron and brass in close proximity to each other in seawater, because the seawater acts like the electrolyte in a battery. You get an exchange of ions and the iron will start to rot away. And ships that had copper sheeting touching galvanized iron screws or bolts or whatever they were, or nails, soon discovered that their nails were rotting away, and it was a fairly precarious situation. They had to come into port and change their nails. You can see the brass bolts hanging out of it. You're saying, well, hang on, the brass and iron there. But what they did was they used a material called gutta percha, which was an insulation material derived from the sap of a Southeast Asian bush. It's a bit like chewing gum, and they used that as an electrical insulator between the brass and the iron. This is called composite construction, an iron frame and timber on the outside. And if you like, it's an intermediate sort of building situation between a fully timber ship and a fully iron ship. And it really took the whole of the 19th century for the whole body of ships to transition from fully timber ships to fully iron and steel. This ship was built in 1864 in Sunderland, in North East England, and was launched as the City of Adelaide. And as I said, that's exactly what she did for the first 20 years. Now let's go around the corner here. And as I said, watch out for the yellow painted trip hazards and other unpainted trip hazards. Shrunk, and the corking is falling out, of course, which is part of the waterproofing between the planks. That shrinkage has really only happened in the last 30 years, because she was taken out of the water in Scotland in a year 1990. Notice as we come along here is that there are a whole lot of square windows and there's a doorway we're going to go into. Those are not original. Originally there were no portals or openings at that level of the ship. There were up in the first class, but you can't see that from here. They were put in when the ship was no longer sailing on the high seas and became a hospital ship in 1893. And she became a hospital ship in Southampton in the south of England, and sat there in the river for 30 years servicing shipping where people had come in and looked a bit dodgy. They might have in particular they were worried about cholera, and people were cured of those infectious diseases. So in many ways it's very similar to our response to COVID just 100 years before. In 1923, she was sold to the Royal Navy, towed up to Scotland, and turned into a naval training ship for naval gunnery. And she was then moored at Greenock, which is at the entrance to the Clyde, west of Glasgow. And she was there from 1924 until 1948 as HMS Carry. So first of all, let's go and have a look at the prow of the ship, the front of the ship, the bow of the ship, whichever you want to call it. The Neltheby was built here in Adelaide, Port Adelaide, in about 1881 from a kit sent out from Scotland. And it was originally to be a sailing ketch, but they decided they wanted a tug, so they put they retrofitted a steam engine to her, and you can see the chimney back there, and they stuck a propeller on her and turned her into a tug. And there's record of the Neltheby actually towing the City of Adelaide in and out of Port Augusta in the 1880s. There's a register of shipping, a book that was updated every year, and the 1864 book has got 13,000 registered ships, more than 150 tons just for Britain alone. So, you know, the number of ships on the high seas was vastly greater than it probably is now, but of course the size of those ships was tiny in comparison with modern ships. I mean, even this ship is pretty small. 798 tons register. There would be very few cargo ships that would be less than 10,000 tons of weight. It wasn't until we got to the end of the 19th century and they started to build ships with iron and steel hulls that the tonnage increased significantly. It was taken off the ship some time ago because the top fitting that these pins go into, these brass pins, is actually broken on the back of the ship, and that weighs nearly 3 tons. And this is made out of 5 pieces of Queensland ironbark. So as such, it's the only Australian timber on the ship. Oh, perhaps I didn't mention to you what timbers are on the ship. The lower timbers in it, not including the English oak front piece, are North American elm wood, deciduous tree from the east coast of the United States and Canada. It changes to Eastern European oak, more or less where the white paint is up there. And then above that, it's all Indian teak. Indian teak is a fantastic shipbuilding timber. I think it's even better than oak, and it doesn't suffer from the expansion and contraction that these lower timbers have suffered from being exposed to the elements. So the story that goes with the rudder here is that in 1877 she went up to Port Augusta, loaded the ship with wool, then headed back, started her journey back to England, came down the channel, went around the west end of Kangaroo Island to head off towards the Pacific Ocean, and ran into a nasty little storm, where there was a freak wave that actually lifted the original version of this out of its pins, out of its fittings at the back of the ship, and the rudder disappeared down to the bottom of the ocean, never to be seen again. So the city of Adelaide had to find its way back to Adelaide by some means to get the rudder replaced. Now, they tried to make up a temporary rudder on the deck of the ship using pieces of timber and iron that they had to hand. In fact, they made 2 attempts, and both were washed away when they tried to fit them. So eventually what they did was they took the anchor chains from the front of the ship and they trailed them out the back. So they dragged them all the way down to the back of the ship, and remember, there's no electric winches, no hydraulic winches, it's all manpower, and they trailed them out the back of the ship to give her a bit of turning ability one way or the other. And she made it back to Port Adelaide by sailing through the Backstairs Passage, which is that nasty short bit of seaway between the end of the Fluria Peninsula and Kangaroo Island, where ships don't go except for the ferry, of course, that has to go down. At Fletcher Slip, which still exists, they sent down a diver to measure up the template for this rudder. Then they made the rudder and fitted it with the aid of the diver again. You can imagine the scene with a brass helmet and a sort of sealskin suit, lead boots, and an airline going to a manually operated air pump. No smoke or break on that one. Anyway, she was on her way again after about 10 days, so it was a pretty efficient operation, and she made her way back to London without any further ado. Exactly the same thing happened to the Cutty Sark, which of course is the only other surviving composite ship. And that happened to the Cutty Sark off Cape Town, and in that case the captain decided he wasn't going to go into Cape Town to waste time getting a new rudder. He made up a jury rudder, attached it. It lasted all the way to London because he was racing Thermopylae to get back with the first crop of tea from China that year, because there was a huge profit to be made out of having the first fresh crop of tea back in London.
12. What's that? 12 rats.
12 rats.
Look, sneaky one. Up there. There are 12. Where's 13? I don't know.
There you got one, man.
13. That's sneaky rat. That's 13. 14. Yeah, 14.
Oh, look, here's an xylophone.
Where's the xylophone?
Oh, no, it's not a xylophone, it's a thing, another instrument.
14. Yeah, I already got that one. I got 15. Yeah, me too. 16. 16. Yeah. Oh yeah, 17. Uncle Ben. Where are you right there? 18. We got 17 rats. 14. 14. Where's 14?
Going good, aren't you?
14. I mean, 18. What? 18. 18. I definitely think we're going to get the wrong answer. Ooh la la! Rats got it.
18 rats, eh?
Look, you can see the water from the holes. Yuck. Don't touch it. Yeah. Where's 19? We got 8. I think that's all the rats. No, there's probably more up there. Yeah. Like I'm saying, all rats down here. Look, center. Needles. Oh, that's sketchy. Uncle Ben,
That's
look
cool.
at these statues.
Yeah, I'll get to them.
Oh. Oh. Preston, on yours. Preston, I told you that's the clicker ship on this TV. No, because that wasn't like that. It was dark. Yeah, but it doesn't need to be in colour. The little boy and the little girl. Oh, that's so cute. This is the back of the boat.
It is.
Looks like a drum. Drum. Looks like a clip.
That's an old port wine drum.
Look! We're trying to find 19 rats. Looks like a cat in that. Don't touch.
Would have been tough down, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah.
There's 19 rats.
I'm seeing their little food setup over there from back in the day. Imagine sitting on the waves eating that. It probably would be more steady than you think.
What to do? What's this one? Should I take a photo of it, even though I don't know what? What do you hear me? That's so cute. Why 19 rats?
This is the No, this is just plywood that we put on top of that because the boards underneath are just like once you sort of have this. So you
Where's 19?
So this is the floor above you has been completely replaced. It's a 3-part sandwich. The lower part is this really decorative part, which is just tongue and groove pine, and then on top of that there's a layer of about 9 millimeters of marine ply, which is really strong, and then on top of that there's a layer of Oregon pine, which has been stained
19
and has a silicon corking between it to look like the original pitch corking there was. So we'll see that when we go upstairs to examine the sloop. The paint colour, as I think I mentioned to some of you, is the oldest paint that we found on the ship. and that's called Overdeal. And then there are some later paint colours you can see here. This is a dark green, and then there's a sort of pale grey that was didn't have it before in quite well.
Are we going up there? Safe from cardboard. Why can't we?
They're still working up in here. See?
Light is not great. This is actually the original plan of this deck, and it's a drawing that would have been printed, that would have been shown to prospective passengers by the agents, the shipping agents in London, Devon and Moore, with the question, well, which cabin would you like? Just as you do on a cruise ship today.
That cabin.
And so you can see there are 6 cabins either side, 2 at the end. There's a big pantry here. That's a table, big mahogany table down the middle with armchairs at either end. That's the mizzen mast coming through the table, and these you can't see it very well, but there are 2 skylights shown here which are actually represented here. You can still see more or less where they were, to bring light into the central part of the saloon. Now each cabin was designed for 2 people. There was a little corridor between each pairs of cabins, and each cabin had its own WC. When I say WC, I mean water closet. It was a flush toilet. Now, we've recreated, or we're in the process of recreating 2 of those cabins, which are here. So you go in and have a look around. You'll see where the toilets were. You'll see how much room there is.
Say like 800 pounds.
Not a bad sized room, is it?
End of the ship. Sitting room here, bedroom there, and the sitting room had a padded couch that went all the way around there, and there was a little toilet there, and guess what that is? It's a plug you'll see on the outside. Direct access. So you might call that a short drop, and that's a long drop over there. And there was a bathroom. This is actually the stern post, which is a very strong piece of timber that connects from the keelson up above the deck. And this is what the rudder ran through. And if you look down there, you can see the hole that the rudder came up through. Now, you can see that a lot of this wrought iron here is in very poor condition. And what we've done is actually replaced the structural parts of it with new steel. So this has been scarfed into the wrought iron to strengthen the whole of the back of the ship here, so that we don't end up down on the ground. So they've done that one structure at a time. Right. Well, here we are in the hold of the ship. Originally, when this was a passenger ship, this was only used for cargo. Nobody was accommodated down here, it would have been, the cargoes would have been stacked on some sort of staging throughout, because you can't just pile one box on top of another until you get, it's actually 12 foot high with temporary staging that you move around to accommodate different cargoes, because of course you have to make sure that your cargo is well balanced, or else the ship will end up in strife. And of course the cargoes can't move either. And if you notice on the flats of the frames here, there are bolt holes. That's because they were spaced timbers about 6 inches apart. The main purpose was to, of course, prevent the cargo from pushing against the outside timbers, because ultimately you've got one layer of timber between you and the briny ocean. The structure that's running the whole length of the ship there is called the keelson, and it's basically an I-beam which is made up of many parts riveted together, but it's the principal structural element of the ship. All of these frames curve down and are riveted into the bottom of it, and then on top of it you see we have some other girders. Now that is not original. That is an extra support put in by the Royal Navy in 1924 to support the guns up on the deck of the ship. And they've actually been taken out on the intervening deck since, and that's why there's no supports there at all. They replaced the original stanchions, which you can see behind Robert there, the pillars that were originally all the way down the ship, just like the deck above us. And of course they're made out of cast iron. These are, I'm not sure whether they're steel or wrought iron, but anyway, they're an awful lot stronger. And you can see that they're joined up horizontally as well. Look at that. The portals behind you, of course, are not original. They were put in 1893 when this became a hospital ship, and she was sitting much higher in the water, and the water line was below the level of those portals. Originally, the water line would have been more or less at about the ceiling height in here on the outside, so we would be entirely correct. You'll see that these frames are all very rusty along the top. The tops have basically rusted away. There would have been a timber floor on that all the way up to the pillar stringer, which is the whole top. And of course the cargo sat on that. The heaviest things would be down near the bottom of the ballast. There is quite an amount of cement down here between the frames. You can see it down there, you can see it down here, and that's original, both as ballast and also check. The gap underneath the
What's up, guys? Thank you for watching the Clipper ship. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe. Let me know where you want me to go next, what you want me to do, or if you like these sort of videos. But anyways, I got another video coming out soon at the Maritime Museum. I hope you enjoy that video once it's up as well. So once again, this was the Clipper ship. So enjoy, please like and share, and I'll see you in my next round. Peace.